Well, guys, it is now time for my Week 4 picks of the 2023 NFL season. As last week I went 12-4, best results so far this season. Off to a very good start in terms of record, as you can see right there. Got 2/3 of my games already correct. Hoping to keep that momentum up into Week 4. And of course, here's the regular season stands and the playoff stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, the Dolphins with the bye, with Bills at Steelers, Browns at Chiefs, and Ravens at Colts. And the NFC, it's the 49ers with the bye, with Cowboys at Eagles, Lions at Falcons, and Seahawks at Packers. And my Super Bowl prediction is still the 49ers over the Dolphins. So now it's time for my Week 4 picks. Starting off with tonight, big one in the NFC North, as the Lions are at the Packers. As the Lions won the last 3, and the Packers haven't beaten them since 2021. As the only teams in the NFC North right now with a win, and whoever wins will take the lead in the NFC North. The Lions beat the Falcons, although I wasn't quite impressed with the victory. That offense didn't play as good as I was hoping it would. Meanwhile, the Packers, oh boy, down 17-0 on the Saints. Nothing seemed going right whatsoever. Then Carr goes down with an injury, and when that happened, it seemed like the Packers completely flipped. And all the momentum went their way as they went on to win 18-17, a big comeback to salvage their season. Stats don't look really good, but hey, they're 2-1 still, so it doesn't matter. I mean, they're not caring in that regard. This will be a very interesting game. The Lions beating them 3 in a row, and both games were close. Be very interesting to see about this one. This actually could be a potentially bold pick, especially since the Lions have not really impressed me after that Week 3 game, but I think I'm going to pick the Packers for this one and keep that strong start going. So then we get to Sunday action, starting off with the London game, which, hey, maybe I'll be up doing MTWS to see this, as it's the Falcons at the Jaguars for the first time since 2021. As the Falcons won the last 4, the Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2007. As the Falcons pretty much got shot back down to reality as they lost to the Lions. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, oh my god, they got obliterated by the Texans. Horrible start to the year for the Jaguars. Not looking right for him whatsoever. As we're going to have to go up against, looks like a very good defense other than a rush defense for the Falcons. I think, though, the Jaguars will probably get this fixed from this game. So I'm going to pick the Jaguars still to get this. And then we get to the huge matchup in the AFC for the 1 p.m. games on the AFC East. As it's the Dolphins at the Bills with the AFC East on the line. As the Bills won the last one, the Dolphins haven't beaten them since 2022. And they haven't won in Buffalo since 2016. As the Dolphins try to go 4-0 for the first time since 1995. As the Dolphins, oh my goodness, you can't say I was wrong to say it was gonna be a high-scoring game. It was 90 points. It's just almost all of it went to the Dolphins, as they were the third team ever to score 70 points. The first time since 1966 someone did this. Insane. As the Dolphins had the second most offensive yards of all time by just like 9 yards off, which is insane. The Dolphins effectively had 2 games worth of offense. And the fact, if they don't have this number 1 offense pretty much in terms of like yards, passing yards, and points and all that throughout the entire season, man, something really went wrong with them when they got an extra game. They have a 400-yard lead over whoever's second in offensive yards they looked up last night. Absolutely insane domination on the Broncos. Meanwhile, the Bills showing why they were a Super Bowl contender still when they completely obliterated the Commanders, showing the Chiefs game was just a fluke probably. So yeah, this is going to be very huge. A playoff rematch from the wild card game last year. And remember, all 3 games last year were close. Dolphins being the first game, that was by 2 points. Then they lost again to the Bills. I think it was by like 3 points. And then they lost to the Bills again in the wild card by 3 points. So they're very close to each other. Maybe the Dolphins could do it. They have the offense to do it, but their defense is not really good. Whereas they got to go up against a near elite Bills team overall. This is going to be huge. Would not be surprised if the Dolphins get it because they're just so explosive offensively, but I'm still going to probably pick the Bills for this one. At least they have a defense to stop the Dolphins potentially. And then we get to the battle of winless teams, as the Vikings are at the Panthers for the first time since 2021. As the Vikings won the last 2, the Panthers haven't beaten them since 2017. As the Vikings try to avoid 0-4 for the first time since 2011. And the Panthers try to avoid 0-4 for the first time since 2010. So the Vikings almost pulled it off. against the Chargers because they almost choked. But once again, another close game. Like this has been the thing with the Vikings since 2021. Close games, but this time around, once again, they couldn't get a victory out of it. Meanwhile, the Panthers, they actually held in there pretty strong against the Seahawks, but in the end, they still couldn't get the win. So yeah, the Vikings, despite their struggle, I think they're much better than the Panthers. So I'm going to pick the Vikings for this one. And then it's the Broncos at the Bears for the first time since 2015. As the Bears won the last one, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2015. The Bears haven't won at home since 2007. As the Broncos try to avoid 0-4 for the first time since 2019. And the Bears try to avoid 0-4 for the first time since 2000. So the Broncos. Oh boy. Man, all I can say is, you can't blame Russell Wilson the offense for this season so far. They've been pretty solid. You see in terms of stats. They're solid, good. Russell Wilson's been playing good, other than the Dolphins game. But that was just the defense. The defense that was so elite last year is now playing like dog shit. And I'm genuinely curious why the stats are this pretty good despite the beatdown they were inflicted on them. Because, man, yeah, now that I think of it, I think when I looked up online for the stats last time I make these things, I think it said the Broncos had the worst points defensive-wise, points allowed. Yet when I update the thing, it said 23 and all that. So I think the site's kind of screwed up with the overall stats. It didn't even show the Raiders stats yet this season for week 1, so that's getting very annoying. So I think the Broncos stats in this list are broken, not accurate whatsoever, because their defense should be one of the worst in the league after that game. They effectively allowed 2 games worth of yards and points. Insane. As they got obliterated by the Dolphins. Meanwhile, the Bears, I don't know why people are freaking out about this. They got obliterated by the defending champions. Like, are you really that surprised that they got obliterated like that? I'm not. So a battle between 2 teams that were humiliated last week, trying to get their first win. And as bad as the Broncos are, their offense so far seems competent, whereas the Bears have nothing going their way. So I'm going to pick the Broncos for this one. And then we get to a big battle in the AFC North as the Ravens are at the Browns. The Browns won the last one. The Ravens haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Cleveland since 2020. So the Ravens, in a defensive slugfest, they lost to the Colts in overtime. Meanwhile, the Browns run with their elite defense and somehow doing good despite having no Nick Chubb since Kareem Hunt took over for the season. And Watson actually had his first good game this year as they destroyed the Titans. Like I said, if Watson plays like he did with the Texans, the Browns could be a scary team. Now, of course, that's going to be without Nick Chubb, so I think that might affect them more, even if Watson plays better. But man, the Browns so far this season have an elite defense, like the best defense in the league, and they better not waste this success, as this defense could carry them to the Super Bowl as long as their offense is competent. So yeah, this will be a very interesting game with the division on the line. And I'm going to pick the Browns for this one. And then it's the Steelers at the Texans for the first time since 2017. As the Steelers won the last 3. The Texans haven't beaten them since 2011. And funny enough, last time they won was also in Week 4, where the Steelers were 2-1 as well. So how funny that happened. So anyways, the Steelers. Stats don't look good and all that, but they still managed to beat the Raiders as they lead the AFC North at the moment. Meanwhile, the Texans actually humiliated the Jaguars, surprising how they obliterated them, and they've actually looked pretty solid these last 2 weeks. And right now, Stroud, these next 2 games, he's actually, I think right now look like the best rookie QB right now since Richardson didn't play last week. He had like 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's playing very good now after his game manager stats in week 1. This game would be very interesting. Kind of would like to maybe pick the Texans for this one with their momentum right now, but I gotta go with the Steelers since I trust their defense more. And then a big one, our conference matchup, as it's the Rams at the Colts for the first time since 2021. As the Rams won the last 3, the Colts haven't beaten them since 2009. They haven't won at home since 2005. As the Rams lost to the Bengals in defensive struggle in the Super Bowl rematch, as they couldn't they completely shut down the Bengals offensively in the first half, but then they couldn't do anything in the second half, pretty much. Complete implosion offensively, as they're not looking good despite their stats saying they're playing good. Meanwhile, the Colts, hard-fought game without either Taylor or Richardson, but they still beat the Ravens just like they should have done 2 years ago, as they lead the AFC South. To my surprise, why everyone's freaking out about this. Like, the Colts, if everything goes right, they should be like 9 wins. I don't know why people are freaking out or surprised about this. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Richardson hopefully should be back after his concussion, and this will be very interesting to see, and all that. The stats make me want to pick the Rams almost, but the way they're playing, they haven't really convinced me, whereas the Colts, they have convinced me. So this might be a surprise, but I think I'm going to pick the Colts for this one. And then we get to a big NFC South matchup, as it's the Buccaneers at the Saints with the division on the line. As the Buccaneers won the last 2, the Saints haven't beaten them since 2021. As the Buccaneers got spanked by the Eagles. I guess those 2-0 start was because they were playing not good teams. Meanwhile, the Saints, oh man, they blew it against the Packers. You have an elite defense. You had a 17-0 lead on the Packers, and you couldn't get the victory. And of course, even worse, Carr got injured, and I have no idea if he's going to even be playing or not. This is going to be very interesting. This could be a defensive struggle like the last game was last year when they hosted them. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens here, but I think I trust the Saints defense more than I trust maybe Baker doing good. So I'm going to pick the Saints for this one just barely. And then we get to a big NFC East matchup, as it's the Commanders at the Eagles. Commanders won the last one. The Eagles haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home since 2021, since, remember, the Commanders gave the Eagles their first loss last year on Monday night, as the Eagles try to go 4-0 for the second year in a row. So the Commanders came back to reality as they got destroyed by the Bills, as Howell played horrible. Howell played horrible, 4 interceptions. Ugh, no surprise there. Eagles finally looked competent for once this year as they spanked the Buccaneers, as they are one of 3 undefeated teams left and leading the NFC East, with a big chance to get a big lead right here in the division. And I am going to pick the Eagles for this one. And then it's the Bengals at the Titans for the second year in a row, as the Bengals won the last 2. The Titans haven't beaten them since 2017, as the Bengals were one of the worst offenses in the league. Finally got a victory, as they looked horrible in the first half offensively. Then they finally started up in the second half to get the win, as the Titans, meanwhile, got obliterated by the Browns, looking like they're not playing good this year like I kind of predicted they would, as they are not looking really good. Even though the stats look worse for the Bengals, I trust them still more, especially since they beat them the last 2 times, remember, in the playoffs. So I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one. Alright, so then we get to the 4 p.m. games, with a big one, the AFC West, as it's the Raiders at the Chargers. The Raiders won the last one. The Chargers haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home. No, the Raiders haven't won on the road since 2020, as whoever wins will have second place in the division. So the Raiders, hard-fought game, but they couldn't beat the Steelers because McDaniel's an idiot who thought you needed freaking more possessions for an 8-point game. God, how stupid was he? Meanwhile, the Chargers, they almost choked it against the Vikings. Why would you go for a 4-for-1 deep in your territory? You got so lucky the Vikings choked on themselves to get their first win of the year, as they have an elite offense, but their defense is one of the worst in the league, and that's hurting really bad because that Chargers offense is very, very, very good. So yeah, Chargers have a very good offense. Now, if their defense would stop choking, along with the Chargers choking whatsoever, maybe I'd feel more comfortable about them, but this shouldn't be too hard for them. I'm picking the Chargers for this one. And then it's the Patriots at the Cowboys for the first time since 2015. As the Cowboys won the last one, the Patriots haven't beaten them since 2019. And the Cowboys haven't won at home against them since 1996. As the Patriots finally got their first win in an ugly defensive game against the Jets. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, well, I knew I shouldn't have picked the Cowboys for this one because I knew the Cardinals were going to probably pull it off. And they did, which I'm not surprised whatsoever. As the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals pretty convincingly too, as their elite defense could not stop them whatsoever. Like I said, the Cowboys always struggle when they visit the Cardinals. I don't know why, they always just do. This will be an interesting game, but I trust the Cowboys defense to maybe stop the Patriots, so I'm going to pick the Cowboys for this one. And then it's going to be the Cardinals at the 49ers, as the 49ers won the last 2. The Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2021. As the 49ers try to go 4-0 for the first time since 2019. As the Cardinals, for one of the worst teams in the league, they actually would be 3-0 right now if everything went their way. Think about that, guys. They could be 3-0 right now without Kyler Murray. as one of the worst teams in the league. They're like playing like the Seahawks last year. They just haven't gotten all the wins yet. But they're playing much better after the spanking they gave the Cowboys. Meanwhile, the 49ers defensively spanked the Giants as they're one of 3 undefeated teams left, trying to keep ahead of the Seahawks in that division. This could be a very interesting game. Let's see if the Cardinals can maybe put up a good one against the 49ers. But I'm still going to pick the 49ers to get this one. And then it's Sunday night, as it's the Chiefs at the Jets for the first time since 2017. As the Jets won the last one, the Chiefs won the last one. The Jets haven't beaten them since 2017. And the Chiefs haven't won in East Rutherford since 2002. And once again, the third time, and no Mahomes or Rodgers appearance. They once again had a chance to face each other, and they still can't. Oh my gosh. So anyways, the Chiefs completely destroyed the Bears, which, am I surprised? Is anyone surprised? I'm not surprised. I don't know why people are acting like it's so stunning that they did that. Meanwhile, the Jets once again choked against the Patriots, as their defense once again did all the work, and their offense couldn't do literally nothing. And yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs for this one. They're put in the wrong spot. And then we get to Monday night, battle between 2 wildcard teams last year, as it's the Seahawks at the Giants for the first time since 2017. As the Seahawks won the last one, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2020, and the Seahawks haven't won. They haven't won against the Seahawks at home since 2008. So the Seahawks got a needed victory over the Panthers. They're 2-1. Still not looking very good, especially defensively, but they're hanging in there. Meanwhile, the Giants, ugly game against the 49ers, but without Saquon, it's not a surprise. Hopefully he'll be back for this one, but yeah, nothing seems to be going right for the Giants right now whatsoever, so I'm going to pick the Seahawks for this one. So those are my picks for Week 4. I cannot wait for Lions at Packers tonight with the division on the line. That's going to be insane. So my picks are the Packers over the Lions, the Jaguars over the Falcons, the Bills over the Dolphins, the Vikings over the Panthers, the Broncos over the Bears, the Browns over the Ravens, the Steelers over the Texans, the Colts over the Rams, the Saints over the Buccaneers, the Eagles over the Commanders, the Bengals over the Titans, the Chargers over the Raiders, the Cowboys over the Patriots, the 49ers over the Cardinals, the Chiefs over the Jets, and the Seahawks over the Giants. Alright guys, see you guys next week for Week 4. No, Week 5.